Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 45, where tonight we'll be analysing the Brentford game. I bet you're looking forward to that. The plan without Diego Costa, taking your questions and looking ahead to Brighton. Of course, I'm joined by my two regular pundits in the form of Chris Tyler and Mark Knock, aka Tyler and the Butcher. Straight to business, gentlemen. Happy Halloween everywhere. There's no puns in place for the show, but I'm sure we can take some live puns if people want to put any comments, any football-related Halloween, just to liven it up a bit, have a bit of fun. We'll get them on the screen. As usual, the show is recorded live and then available afterwards on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook, and hopefully soon a podcast partner, as I've been promising for a while. Going back to the weekend, it ended Brentford 1, Wolves 1. Knocky, your take on the weekend's game?
I thought it was better. I thought it was an improvement on what we've seen in recent weeks, which probably wasn't hard following on from the Leicester game. But I kind of question their commitment in the last few games, the lack of work rate, the lack of effort, really. But there was no lack of effort against Brentford. I thought it was a hard-working performance. I think the only thing that was lacking really was quality. We had moments in the game. I thought we moved the ball better than we have done in recent weeks. But when Ben Mee scores a flying scissor kick, you kind of think that's curtains end, don't you? But to be fair, they reacted really well. Great goal from Neves. And I think after that, I thought we were in control of the game, really. I thought that we were the better team. We looked like we could pinch it, and then Costa had a great chance when he cuts inside me and it's the post. And he forces a save around the post. And that was a good opportunity for us. And you felt there was a bit of a head of steam coming, but we just don't have that ability to finish teams. But generally, I think it was a much better performance than we've seen in recent weeks. The only real downside to it was obviously Costa's dropped the nut and got himself sent off, which we knew was a risk with him. We know that he's a reactive player. We know that he plays right on the edge, but it's not done us any favours because he's going to be out till Boxing Day. But I thought there's more positives than negatives to take from the game, but it's a game we should have gone out there and won. I thought we had opportunities to do that. Brentford didn't look a particularly good side to me. I thought they were very beatable. They were obviously on the back of a 4-0 tonking themselves. And I thought it was a game that with a little bit more maybe ambition or perhaps just a little bit more quality in the final third, we could have took a better result out of that because as it happens, we've actually ended up second from bottom because the teams around us have been picking up points. And that's really the concern. But it's a foothold, which is probably what we needed, just a foothold in the league. And we've got ourselves in a position where we've got something to try and build on now if we can.
Absolutely. I agree with pretty much all of that. And I know we talked before off air. We've all got a similar view, but a similar take yourself, Tyler?
Well, yeah, he hasn't really left me anything to say, has he?
He's like that.
And he owes me a tenner as well, because for some stupid reason, I followed that bet he had, and I put a tenner on it. And
was that the Saturday morning premonition?
I don't know what you'd have for your breakfast Saturday morning, son, but
yeah, I can only apologise.
Yeah, like Mark says, and I joined you on Saturday night as you were being chauffeur driven back at the M40. There was just more positives. That some of the players just looked more like their old selves. I mentioned on Saturday night, Max Kilman looked back. He was comfortable on the ball again. He was beating players. He was going into their half. I thought Collins looked solid. Made a couple of key interceptions. Second half, have we found a bit of a gem in Bueno at left back? Samido was pretty solid as well, especially after getting booked after about 10 seconds. I'm sure we'll come on to the referee later, but I thought he then managed the game quite effectively because you're always a bit nervous, especially with the pace and trickery they've got wide. We've all been saying about Boubacar, get him in the side. You see why he's in the side. He's in there to make things a little bit horrible, to break play up. He's not there to do the Nunes, the Neves, the Moutinho role and spray passes and look nice. He's just there to do a job, and I thought he did it well. And I thought, the front players did okay. The jury's been out, as we talked about before, on Podence and Adama. I thought they both played all right again. And, Costa on another day, like Mark says, scores the goal and you win the game. But, like Mark said, they needed to get a point on the board. We needed to show something. And I thought we did that, to be fair. You fear the worst at 1-0, but we bounced back with a good goal. So, yeah, echo everything Mark says, really. Hopefully it's a foothold, for a couple of better results before we finish for half term, I suppose.
Absolutely. Just picking up on something that you commented on there, Knocker, that not a lot of Brentford didn't really do a lot. Was that a case of two teams cancelling themselves out, or was it a case of Wolves actually holding a better shape and restricting them? Because I don't really recall Jose Sarr. The most he did really was pick the ball out of his net and take his glove off when he was buying some time. But I thought Wolves restricted a team that had only lost to Arsenal this season at home, in home games.
He had a poorly hand son. Don't try and take that away from him. I think we had a plan in place. I mean, we played Brentford at Molineux a couple of at the start of last season, and I thought Mbeumo in particular really hurt us that day, and we never got him at all. But like Chris said, Hugo Bueno absolutely dealt with him. I thought he controlled him for the home game to the point where they actually took him off in the end, and I thought that was a marker of how well Bueno had done. And I think the way they play, they like to get the ball to the wide positions and try and bring you out wide and then cut inside and feed Tony in the attacking area. But I felt we kept him pretty quiet as well. I don't think he had a lot to breathe, really. I thought we squashed him as soon as they got to that final third. We kind of clamped down on them, kept our shape really well, and just held that line. The only time we kind of let ourselves down was for the goal, because we've got Ben Mee controlled in that situation, and then I think it's maybe Collins who takes a step forward and just gives me a little bit of space. And for me, I know it's a fabulous finish and you're never going to stop it, but I don't think a ball at that height should go as far as it did. I think we should have cut that out before it reaches in.
It was taken short, wasn't it? So they reacted quickly. And I think it was one of the few times in the game that we actually switched off, because when a player scores sort of half kick, overhead kick kind of thing, you have to praise the finish. But like you said, I don't think the ball should have been allowed to reach him so easy. I also think we were passive in challenging him, because if a centre-back's allowed to make an overhead kick and score a great goal, where's the header? Where's the body? I just think we lacked a bit of aggression. And for a team that looked quite aggressive, that was probably the only... Well, conceding is obviously disappointing, but I thought it was avoidable.
I think it's the story of our season, isn't it? We seem to get punished for every time we switch off, every time we make a mistake. The ball seems to end up in the back of the net, and we don't have the ability to punish teams when that happens to them. It just seems to always end up in the back of our net, and they seem to smother it wide, or it just bounces off a defender's backside and goes wide. But it's not a bad point of Brentford. I know they got hammered by the Villa, but that was a one-off game. Villa aren't 4 goals better than Brentford, and I thought you've got to take positives when you're in the situation that we're in. You have to find positives in games, because it's so easy to get sucked into a cycle of depression where you just think it's curtains. And there was things we could take from that game, but in particular for me, Bueno, I think that there's something about the way he plays that I really like. He's got a fearless nature down that left-hand side. He's aggressive. He'll do step overs, where I think he's got a little bit of Aït-Nouri about him, but he'll try and get the ball into the box a lot earlier. He won't have to try and beat the man 3 times before he delivers. And there's just something about the way he plays that I really like. And I think, we have got an absolute gem there. But defensively, we were good. We were solid. We were organised. And it was just that one switch off that's cost us. But if we can get Kilman and Collins back up to the level that they were the first few games of the season, then we have got a foothold in the season again, and we can start building.
Absolutely. Tyler, unusually for Wolves, conceding actually energised Wolves. It almost made them angrier than they already were. That reaction to the goal straight away, that away end celebrations, and there's just bodies everywhere. I say limbs, it was bodies. Neves was he was so angry celebrating the goal. Obviously, I was in the press box, so I was restraining myself, but I was absolutely loving it, and just seeing the wild scenes in the away end. After that, Wolves, when they equalised, Wolves looked like they're full of belief. They looked like, here we go. And I think after conceding, Wolves probably looked the better team.
Yeah, I still don't think we created much or looked like winning it, though, really. But yes, the positives are, like Mark said every week, as soon as we go 1-0 down, we might as well pack in. And we probably all had the same dread, didn't we? We thought, where are we going to get a goal from? And it was a nice work goal, wasn't it? It was nice. We kept the ball. We didn't panic. Adama got his head up, passed it back. Semedo squared it. Boubacar must have got the shout and 1-1. And like you said, there was a bit of a release in the celebration from the players. They all went over. Like you said, you'd like to think they're always buzzing when they score a goal, but there did seem to be, something else there, didn't there? A bit of release, a bit of anger. And the dream would have been to go on and win it, wouldn't it? And I think that really would have given us a kick-start. But I think, like you both alluded to, you probably take a point the situation we're in. And it then doesn't look a great point because of the result Leeds get. And, like Mark said, of the teams down there, Forest beating Liverpool the week before, it then doesn't look as good a point. But when you take a step back, I think we were all a bit happier Saturday night. But because we'd seen like you said, we'd seen our players try hard again. And that's your minimum expectation. And as a Wolves fan, if you see that, the players should have enough quality to then shine through as long as they're doing the basics. And Podence was getting stuck in and being horrible, wasn't he? And Neves was. And like you say, it's after 9 o'clock. Is the shithousery from Saul when they lost the play? That's what you want to see. You hate
absolutely.
you hate it when it's done against you. But when it's done on your team, you love it, and rightly so. So it was good to see that again. A bit of nastiness, a bit of horribleness.
Well, it was a proper team effort. Now, I don't think Semedo's booking early on was a booking, and obviously, as you said, we'll talk about the referee in a little bit. But that set the scene for Wolves. There was no messing around. Wasn't taking any rubbish. They were into the tackle, whether it was taking a booking or not. I think Traore got booked as well for something that probably wasn't. No, sorry, it was Podence that got booked. It probably wasn't really a foul.
Never a yellow card.
Boubacar Traore kicked everybody until he got booked, and then sort of calmed it down a bit. And obviously, I know Nocky, you would have loved that, mate. Like a good tackle's like a goal to you, and we all know that. But it was when you see your team, talented or untalented, but they're fighting for you and your badge and your shirt. You can go home thinking, you know what, they played like I cared today. And I know that's the minimum expectation, and it feels weird praising it, but it actually felt like Wolves again. The Wolves that had got us to success in the recent years, that hunger and desire. So although it wasn't beautiful, I felt quite proud coming out of that again. I was like, you know what, they gave, in my opinion, the most physical team in the Premier League a real good taste of their own medicine in terms of, as Tyler said, some of the S-housing, the shit-housing, and in terms of the tackling. It was a proper dogged performance. Not pretty. Two teams, 4-3-3, probably cancelling each other out a little bit. So be it. But it was good to have some heart back. Raising there the point about Hugo Bueno. That lad looks a player, and I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. He's like Ait Nouri, but he's direct. There's not a triple step over, a Solco, a double lollipop, and then coming back. He's get it. And the one point, I mean, I think I was on the other side of the pitch, but I think he's actually knocked it past Mbeumo. He's put the turbos on and put a cross in. Now, there aren't many people going to do that. Now, I don't know if Mbeumo was surprised that someone had the nuts to try and take him on, because for me, he's one of the fastest players I've seen in the Premier League for quite a while. He's direct, he's very, very athletic, and he's strong. But pace and strength, he's done him. And I was like, what a find.
Yeah, he was sensational. I think they were targeting our fullbacks. I think they were going for Semedo and they were going for Bueno. They weren't getting any joy out of either of them, which really scuppered their plans. But he just looks organised. I mean, he played against West Brom last year in the under-23s game, and he was the shining star really in that team. That day he was brilliant. He got himself a goal, and he was direct. And it's not just that he puts the ball in the box; he puts quality balls in the box. I mean, we saw it when Adama scored his goal. It was a quality ball in the box. He was doing it again against Brentford, just quality balls in. Every ball's. It's not just an aimless strike.
He's got that natural. He just sort of whips it in, doesn't he? He bends away from the keeper.
It's curling away from the keeper at pace. And if you're a striker running in on that, it's absolutely party time for you, because every ball you've only just got to get connection on it, and you're going to end up whistling it with some, a strong rate of knots. But he looks a good player.
Got one then, innit?
There is that. But I mean, even with Costa, though, I know he got himself sent off, but I actually think he had a good game. I thought he was causing them problems. I thought he was direct, he was organised, he was giving us something to feed off, and it's just frustrating he's got himself sent off, because I know he hasn't got a goal yet, but he feels like he's getting better every time I see him. I've seen a bit of unfair stick for him today on Twitter, which I don't agree with, but I think he's a player that's getting better and better for us, and it's just disappointing he's going to be missing for a few games now, because there's definitely a player there that's going to benefit us in the second half of the season.
You're watching episode 45 of the Wolves Report with Chris, Tyler, Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester, analysing the Brentford game, talking about the plan without Costa, taking your questions and looking ahead to Brighton. 2 shout-outs from the comments so far. I've got Satvia, who said he's watching, or he or she is watching from Spain, and also Andy Jeffs, who's watching from New Zealand. International watchers. Excellent. So, yeah, we've gone global. So good evening, and also good evening to everyone else, or the everyone else watching across Wolverhampton, England, or wherever you're watching from as well. So, as I mentioned at the start of the show, the show is recorded live for the benefit of these questions, getting your comments up on screen, agreements, disagreements, reasonable insults. It's after 9, fill your boots. So, yeah, episode 45 of the Wolves Report. Let's finish in analysing the Brentford game. Hugo Bueno positive. You mentioned then a bit of unfair stick for Costa. I actually think he's grown into that Wolves shirt, and he's somewhat, yes, it was ridiculous. And when we talked about other incidents, but there's clear intent. He's done it. I could see, I mean, the VAR screen was right in front of the press box. You could see, and when they get called over, you know he's done. I'm angry at him. I'm disappointed. If it had been 15 minutes into the game and lost, I'd have probably got a lot more stick, but he's probably got off lightly because he didn't really cost us anything. Wolves may have gone on one. I don't know. I just think it's a bit foolish. Some people have said it's with intent and he wants some time off over Christmas. Well, he's not going to get that, because if Wolves beat Leeds on Wednesday night next week, he'll be playing a League Cup game on the 22nd of December, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, Tyler, are you in agreement with that? I think Costa's sort of grown into that Wolves shirt nicely. I think he gets it. I just think he hates losing. And yes, I'm disappointed with him. He's disappointed with himself, but I still think he's got a big part to play this season.
Couldn't believe some of the stuff I've read today. Like, genuinely couldn't believe it. I think basically being writ off after less than six games when he hasn't played for a couple of years. I mean, I know people have to write stuff to, get clicks and sell stuff, but what a bizarre article, if I'm being brutally honest. The guy has come in, he's knit I know we're not scoring goals, but he's just knit that forward line together, and it is a massive shame. There's no excuse for what he's done. It's unprofessional. He should be fined. Whatever should happen because it's ridiculous, especially at the end of the game where you're just seeing the game out. But if you do park that, he's given us a focal point. He's lifted some of the younger players. The shot he had, he's shimmied, beat me, shot left foot. I haven't seen a Wolves striker do that for about 2 years. Like, genuinely, that's a bit of confidence. And if he gets a goal, I agree with you boys. I think we'll see a lot there. He looks our most dangerous player still. The header at West Ham. When did a striker last win a header for us? He should have scored at Palace. So, like Mark said, there's things there that are giving you the signs that he's improving. If he was going the other way, I'd have those concerns. If he started really well and now he's like, oh, crikey, he's well off the pace, you'd be concerned. But some of the stuff I read today, just bonkers, really. The only positive is it gives him time to get fit. He can keep working on his fitness, hopefully. And in January then, we hope he comes back with that anger, but not quite the anger that tips him over the edge. But I'm all for him. I'm a fan. And we were all buzzing when we signed him. We all said it's going to be a roller coaster. So you can't take... when something like this happens, let's be honest, we all expected it at some point. It's just a shame it's happened now when he's going to miss the next 2 games that are so important.
Absolutely. Not only that as well. I mean, I'm taking it back to basics, but I always tend to judge strikers' games on. I always worry about forwards when they don't have chances. I think he's had a chance in every game he's played. He had one off the line against Leicester. He's very unlucky. He's probably should have done better at West Ham with a header. At Palace, he's taken a touch, but he's unlucky. He skin bend me late on in the game on Saturday when he's dropped the shoulder and he's blasted straight at the keeper. He's getting in the positions. If he gets in the positions, the goals will come. And I always believe that with any forwards the case. Yes, some are better finishers than others, but the time to worry about a striker. And for a team that doesn't create anything, if he's averaging 1 chance a game, yes, he probably should be scoring. But if he continues that ratio, the goals will come. And let's not forget, Wolves are on a team that our problem is creating the chances as much as finishing them. We want these. I mean, the plan was clear the weekend. Crosses in the box. Bueno was sort of like the overlapping player. Podence was inverted. Get Traore out wide. And I liked it and it worked. I'm not sure we're going to do that next week with no centre forward against Lewis Duncan and Webster at Brighton, because I think we're on to Hardington. I think they also play it on the 4. But I think keep giving the chances and the goals will come. I'm a big fan. I am disappointed, but I'm not going to write him off yet. I'm not going to be overly critical because we're only a few games into the season. I mean, he could be playing, if he is playing the 22nd if Wolves have got that far. If not, he could be playing away at Boxing Day, Everton. Massive games. Let's not be overcritical. Let's get behind the guy, because he really could be the difference between Wolves staying up and not. And his aggression, leadership and quality is something that we're going to need. So there's my little speech on Costa anyway. So I got that off my chest.
Don't sit on the fence, mate.
No, absolutely not. Another positive from the game, Boubacar Traore. Now, Nocky, this is the kind of player that you're going to love in midfield, doing the stuff that you love to see in a game. Your take on Boubacar Traore's performance and what he brings to the team?
I thought he was erratic. I didn't like him in possession because I always felt he was either going to...
I would say improve second half, though. Much better on the ball second half.
He improved second half, but I mean, he's only a kid. You know, he's only a young man. He's still developing and learning. But
21, yeah.
I was a little bit nervous every time he had the ball because I could just see him banana him one into our own top corner. He just had that reckless abandonment about him. But what he did really well was close down the space in midfield. He got a foot in. He was winning the ball. He was tackling players. He was physical. He was making it horrible at times, which is exactly what we needed it to be, because we've been too nice, especially in that midfield area. How many times have teams just walked straight through the middle of us? But I thought he definitely grew into the game second half, and he started to find his feet. He started to distribute the ball a little bit better, got us into attacking areas. But he's just a solid unit that you really need in that area, especially if you've got players like Neves, Moutinho, and Nunes who can do the quality stuff there. You need someone to do the donkey work for him as well. That's exactly what he'll do. He'll do the leg work, he'll do the horrible jobs. And he's a sort of player that ends up being a cult hero at Wolves because he puts so much into the game, and you can see the edge there. And I think he will have some real quality about him when he fully settles in. But a bit erratic at the moment. But for me, I'd be starting him now because he showed enough to say that he's going to give you that little bit of edge that we've been missing.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, I really like what I saw from him. I know he's not going to... I'm not expecting the football that I'm expecting from João Moutinho or Ruben Neves. I'm not expecting that. But he's a player that every other team in the league seems to have, a player that can go box to box, do the ugly work. And there's quite often in games like Palace recently, in recent years, we've just been dominated by really athletic footballers in the middle of the park. Now we've got one. And I feel with that in the team, although he doesn't bring technical ability, his pressing and aggression gives Neves more time to play. It should give Matheus Nunes more time to play. Yeah,
you've answered your own question, mate. Yeah, I'll totally agree with what you both said. Like you said, if Wolves fans' expectations are he's going to be a Neves and a Nunes, he's not going to be. But he's not there to do that. He's there to free it up, help the... We've obviously gone to back four, so there needs to be a bit of protection there as well. Like Mark said, I think he sort of did okay. I don't think he was like superb, and he certainly needs to work on his retention and his passing and his movement. But he did his job, and we've all been crying out for him because we've all said that's what we need, especially when you're in the wrong half of the table. They're your players you need. And like you said, right, other teams have come to Molyneux with those
steamrollers.
They're just horrible. They're horrible players, aren't they? But like your Basumas and your Højbjergs, people like that just do a job and they go unnoticed. And his job is to win the ball back and give it to someone who's technically better than him and let them play with it. And as long as he keeps doing that, like Mark said, he'll be absolutely fine. And he might even get that cult hero status.
I do agree with Nocky. He was a little bit erratic in the first half, but I thought his ball retention in the second half and his ability to get the ball and push it 5 or 10 yards was something else that we haven't... I'm not expecting him to beat 3 or 4 people, but someone who's direct, right, I've got space, take the space. That is something that we're not expecting Neves or Moutinho to do. Nunes eventually should do that, and we don't know anything about his injury yet, but that's something that he can do, maybe from a deeper position. But it's so glaring to me, his addition to the team makes Wolves a better team because we've missed what he does for so long. I mean, when was the last time we had a midfielder like that? Was it Big Alf in the Championship that was that kind of player? Dendoncker did it a bit as well.
And it's early days, like you said, he's 21. He's gone from the French League to the Premier League. It's very early days, and we're so quick to, I'll do it myself, we're so quick to judge a player or write a player off, but he should only get better, shouldn't he, as he adapts to the pace, the tempo, gets to know his teammates. He should only get better. You know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, he has all the attributes for that role that we need.
Absolutely. I think we've managed to wring out a few positives from the game, which I think we was going to do before. But Boubacar Traoré, Hugo Bueno, great performances. And what we probably need to do is, in terms of finishing off discussing the game, he's talking about the Wolves goal. You mentioned it then. It was a great bit of work from Hugo. Defender flicked it on away. Adama, it's really simple what he did, but the fact he took his time, he didn't percentage ball it in the box. He took his time, he waited for a runner. Semedo collected, squared, Boubacar stepped away. Neves Noki with an absolutely Neves-esque caressed it into the corner. No chance for the home keeper.
Yeah, I don't know where we'd be without Neves. I think if
sad.
You'll find out in a few months. So.
Well,
no need for that, mate.
That's the risk. But if Wolves were a football player, we'd be 7th top scorer in the league. That's how desperate things are, goal scoring wise. He's brilliant. I mean, the way he comes onto the ball, the way he doesn't smash it, he just caresses it, he just bends it into the bottom corner. And how many times have we seen him do that from those kind of positions? I mean, I think we did it against Brentford last year, and it was a similar sort of strike.
Yeah,
where he's not lamping it. It's a pure caress into that bottom corner. He's wonderful to watch. He's such a clever footballer, and he's got that about him. And you mentioned with the celebrations, it really meant something to him, that whistling into the bottom corner. And you know, we've got no chance without him. He's absolutely everything to this football club. He knits everything we do. He gives you that bit of quality. He's range of passing, everything he does, and the way he come onto that. I mean, if you watch the replay for that goal, he's just hovering around just outside. You know, he's probably 40, 50 yards out, just hovering around, and then he breaks when we get to that right-hand area. And he's just there, and he knows where the ball's going to be. It's a great shout. And obviously with Boubacar as well, he did really well to step over that, because a lot of players would have just swung and had a go. He stepped over.
Good awareness.
Yeah, good awareness. He comes on and just bends it in the bottom corner, and it was a fabulous strike. And I think he seems to be relishing having a bit more experience, a bit more responsibility this season. He seems to have really, taken the armband on, and he makes us tick. It was a fabulous goal, and we need more of it.
Absolutely. Ruben Neves gets Wolverhampton wonders, regardless of his next move. He's a Wolves man. He's gone boy to man here. I don't think he get any silverware being at Wolves, but just there's not many players I genuinely feel okay about it. But if one of the big Spanish clubs do go in for him and he does go, I can only wish him all the best. And
not Christmas though.
No, absolutely. But he's not playing like a player that looks like he's moving. He hasn't put the Christmas lights up and started drinking the port and having the Christmas pudding. That guy looks hungry. I mean, he's putting the tackles in. That celebration was of a man with a point to prove as well. He wanted that goal, and I felt like the away end fed off the team, because listen to the away end. It was as good as I've seen it all season. It was noisy throughout. They didn't really get a chance to be stunned from the goal because Wolves equalised straight away. So that connection I thought was back this weekend. Now, hopefully we can take that into the Brighton game, which is going to be a real test because they're playing out of their skin. But yeah, so I think that's all the positives from the Brentford game. However, there is one more.
Can we go back to some negatives now or not?
Absolutely. Of course, mate. We'll put you're an easy being positive. One thing that John Bradbury says he doesn't want us to mention is don't mention the referee. So, Tyler.
I can't look. You better not come to there. Go to knockout. I'm flabbergasted.
Now,
I said to you Saturday night. Well, sorry, I don't care. I'm going in. Right, this product, the Premier League, is the best football league in the world. How is someone like that clown, for both teams, not even one team, for both teams, be that bad? To book Semedo after 35 seconds for just a slightly mistimed tackle, he set the precedence for the whole game. He books Podence, who's 4'8", against a 6'6", doesn't even get anywhere near him, doesn't touch him. Second half, Wolves broke, pulled back, no yellow card. It's just the inconsistency is incredible. And he stands there with these fancy boots on. It just, honestly, it winds me up. People pay good money to go and watch this football. The players get paid good money. Managers lose their jobs over it. And the referees had a stinker when both managers are trying to get at him after the game to have a word with him. It's been bad there. I just couldn't believe it. And, he's had 3 or 4 years off. He's had longer off than Costa. Baffles me, genuinely baffles me.
I mean, I was sat with Steve Herman, and during the game, obviously retaining my professionalism during the game, and I'm looking at Steve, and we're like looking at each other, and then you look at the replay, and Podence didn't. I swear Podence made no contact for that booking. What had happened 5 minutes before is Podence got pulled up for a foul, and he argued with the referee. And I think from that point on, the referee was just waiting to book him. Now, that's my opinion. I don't know if that's the case, and if it is, that's poor show. But he couldn't wait to book Podence.
He couldn't wait to book him.
He couldn't wait to book it, and we're like, hang on. Well, what did he do wrong there?
He couldn't wait to book Semedo. This is a guy who's had 3 or 4 years off. Surely you just ease yourself into the game. He couldn't wait to book him. He was straight over there, card out, bang, and you're like,
unbelievable. And Nocky, we've seen games this year, Nocky, in the Premier League that have looked better, that have been more entertaining because the referees let a bit go. They've let it get more physical without being over the top. It's been more aggressive. There's been more body to bodies. There's been some proper good tackles and some instead of just rolling over and getting a free kick. The games have been allowed to be more physical, and for me, football has benefited from that. It feels like Bobby Madley didn't read the briefing.
It's a fluid game, football. You want to see it move, and you don't want to see it broken up every 2 or 3 minutes for something that doesn't need to stop it. And I think the standard of officiating has been going downhill for years, and it's getting worse now. And it's like Chris said. I mean, you don't like to use the terminology clown, but he was a clown. It was some of the decisions he made were just. They just startled you, and you can always tell by players react. Don't do that, son. Blimey. Keep your chins up.
It's so me and Tyler can have a drink, mate, off air.
But when you're paying good money to watch football, you're not going to watch the referee. You're going to watch the players, and you can always tell by the reaction of the players how they feel about it. And when they look stunned and staggered at a referee, you know that the whole thing's going wrong. And even with the VAR decision, I don't know why he sent him over, because he was always going to do what he was told, and he does a little trot over, makes his decision, does a little trot back. It's just it's all about the referees at times, and it's really frustrating.
They should be noticed. You shouldn't notice.
Absolutely.
A good ref is a ref that you don't even know who refereed the game afterwards.
Exactly.
And just to be really clear, I'm putting no blame on the official of any decisions for the result of that match. Wolves did what they did. Brentford did what they did. I think the official equally let both sides down. It was, as I always say on Twitter, it was consistently inconsistent. And you're just looking at yourself and like, it's irrelevant what they get paid. We all get paid different levels, different jobs, whatever. But this is someone that's supposed to be at the top of their game, officiating in the most lucrative football league in the world. And we're like looking at each other, and people, and as you boys say, you shouldn't really notice an official in the game. You should play on's a big thing in the game now. You've got VAR to protect you if it's bad. But it was just one thing after another, and it was so poor. So, John Bradbury, I hope you're happy with what you've done to the Wolves report tonight. You've set us all.
Ruined it for everyone.
Thank you for your comments, John. This is episode 45 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knott, Chris Tyler, and me, Ryan Lester. I've been analysing the Brentford game. John Bradbury's brought up the referee, and he sent us all off on one. And the final bit, as you mentioned there, we're now going to experience 3 games, 1 cup game, 2 league games without Diego Costa. The next part of the on the menu tonight is the plan without Costa. For me, I've liked Wolves getting more crosses in the box. Dharma scored with 1. I think it's looked better. The goal originally came from a cross. Bueno put the cross in, got flicked away. Dharma laid it, Semedo, bang, goal, Neves. So it's working. However, do we want to do that next week against Brighton? I don't think so. Tyler, how are we going to fix the number 9 situation? Who's going to slot where? What's the twist? How are we going to do it?
No idea.
Well, that's helpful.
Well, you've got 2 options, haven't you? You've got Gweds or Wang, and it's like choosing which of your own kids to punch in the face, isn't it? You can't win.
Happy Halloween, all you watchers out there.
Well, you can't, can you? Because whichever one you go with, it probably ain't going to work, is it? I'd probably go Guedes, but I've got no science. I've got no reason why. I don't know. Frank at Leeds was okay at front, wasn't he? But we haven't really seen him since then, and now we're 14 games into the season. They keep saying that Guedes is a good finisher, probably the best finisher at the club. You just play your percentages and put him up front and try and go fluid with Adama and Podence. They're your only two options, aren't they, realistically? There's nothing else. Is there are other strikers on holiday in Mexico and the other ones playing in the pub league in Belgium. So realistically,
that's the top. That's the Tyler we miss and love. Nocky, how are we going to fix this situation now? I think you can often tell with the way subs are used and stuff, and the way Guedes came on ahead of Hwang would tell me that probably Guedes is going to be the next in line. Some people have talked about changing formation. I think that's a little bit drastic. What would your solution be?
I think we're stuck, really. I think it's either Guedes or Hwang. I don't see what else we can do. I mean, unless you're going to go with a false nine and put Podence in that false nine position with Guedes off him, I think that's the only other change you could make. So Hwang hasn't really had a look in under Davis. I can't see past Guedes starting. And the fact we got a point as well and a better performance, I don't see him ripping everything up and trying out a new formation now going into a home game. I think he'll stick with what we got and it'll just be a straight swap with Guedes coming in. I don't really see what else we can do because, as Chris has said, our other strikers are indisposed for one reason or another.
I've got a little theory and it's a little bit different and I don't think they'll do it. Now, and people feel free to mock me or not on this.
We will.
We will.
And I'm sure people watching will as well. Now, I would go with Podence and I'll go with Guedes and I'll go with Adama. However, during the game, I'd switch it to have Adama through the middle. And mainly because, and I'm thinking about Saturday mainly, because Dunk and Webster, two enormous centre-backs, incredible in the air. But every time Adama Traore plays against Brighton, he roasts them. Multiple players get booked every single time. I know Dan Burn's not there this time. He's at Newcastle. And Dan Burn publicly said he was delighted that Adama had gone because he hated playing against him. This is a team that hate playing against Adama Traore. This is a team that Adama Traore causes trouble against. Surely Adama is worth patches through the game, putting in the middle. Percentage balls, I'm expecting Brighton to dominate the ball because of the technical players they've got and their confidence and their results. However, if we're countering against a technically superior team, surely Adama playing off the shoulder is an option. Is that something we're going to try during the game?
Yeah, that's sort of what I meant with like a fluid three. They're going to have to interchange. They're going to have to mix it up, aren't they? You can't go rigid. You can't play Podence against, two monsters at the back. Even if it's on the floor, he's probably going to get smashed in half, isn't he? So I would like to see the three of them play and rotated and fluid and interchange and if Nunes is fit, hopefully try and get him then as the runner into the box because you're going to need a presence to get in behind. It's the only option I can see, to be honest. Can't see much else. But yeah, I'm all for it. Adama down the middle, pure pace, isn't it? But then two centre halves won't like pace. They won't like being runners in behind. So that is potentially one strength we could play to because even Costa, they probably like playing against Costa.
Well, that
battle like that, they've got
absolutely. They're ready made for that battle, aren't they? They're ready made for that battle. Now,
so hopefully, it's something different for them to think about. Yeah,
and I know I've talked about this in the past, and I'm going back a long time. Just before Adama left, in 2 games he scored a goal going through the middle against Southampton, and he scored a goal that was disallowed at Brentford through the middle, playing off the shoulder of the centre back. Before we got rid of him for nothing, which we won't talk about tonight, with no obligation whatsoever. I think there's a weapon there at centre forward. And you know what? He's not that bad in the air. I'm not saying he's the answer, but for an option for 3 games, for me, it's a no-brainer because Podence can play left or right. And as you've said, Tyler, let's be fluid. Nocky, are you having Adama in the number 9 for a couple of games or not for you?
I'll play him there, yeah. I think it maybe takes the pressure off Guedes as well because if we're playing through the middle, he's going to be expected to score and we know he's not there yet. He may develop into a very good player, but at the moment his confidence is low. So if we're going to start relying on him for goals, we maybe put him in a difficult position. I think Adama can play through the middle. I think he can hurt teams. I get the idea of that we'll rotate and we'll be fluid, but I don't really see that because we generally play quite a regimented system. You don't see a lot of interchanging. You don't see the inverted wingers switching back across. We're very sort of rigid in what we do. So I think however we set up, as long as it's not going completely pear-shaped, I think we'll stick with that. So yeah, you could definitely do that. I wouldn't be averse to it at all. I just think we're going to be limited in what we do. So that's going to be the 3 that play. I think we know that Hwang's I don't think he fancies him, so I don't think he'll get in the team. So it's whichever way that three line up, I don't see any different than that option really. And yeah, Adama for the middle works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Steve Davis will do that. He's snookered for other options, but sorry about that. But I don't see any other options really, because Guedes and Podence, as you said, are going to get dominated. You play it into them, they're going to get bullied. Adama doesn't get bullied, and he's actually all right in the air. I mean, he wins quite a few flick-ons, and he scored that great header at Palace. So I think we'd have seen more of Wang now if he was going to be involved with Davis. But yeah, it's a problem. I guess we'll only find out on Saturday. Just going through a few of the comments. I haven't asked this question yet, but I'm going to set it up anyway. If we asked what Noki was going to give someone for his Secret Santa, Ricochet said a reducer. So there we go. Thank you for the comments. You're watching episode 45 of the Wolves Report with Chris Tyler, Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester, analysing the Brentford game. Just talked about the plan without Costa. And now we're going to take some of your questions. These questions taken from Twitter over the last few days. So if you've got them there, great. If you haven't, apologies. I've tried to get as many as I can to get us through the show. Wayne, who's watching, let's get your question up. Do Wolves need to buy in January window, or do you think this current squad of players, as it stands, is good enough to avoid relegation? Chris Tyler.
Both. I think you always need to look at options. You can never stand still. I think with an experienced centre-half away, aren't we, from the squad, we all know the centre-forward problems we've got. So depending what happens with Jimenez, if we ever see him again, if he came back with Costa and them two were, vying out between them, you could argue that wouldn't be too bad. But the reason I say both is because then on the flip side, I do think these players shouldn't be where they are. I don't think we should be on what we're on 10 points. And I think all we're lacking, and I said it on Saturday night, is the leadership and direction of a proper football manager. So to answer your question, Wayne, yes, I think we need to buy players if they're available. But I also think with the right direction and leadership, we shouldn't be where we are now.
Absolutely. Great question, Wayne. Thank you very much. Great answer, Tyler, as well. Moving on to a question from Matt Price. This one's for you, Knocker. It was reported that Wolves were going back in for Lopetegui, which, if it's true, shows that she can see the current setup isn't working. Where are Wolves if this is true and he says no again? Ouch. Great question, Matt Price. Go on, Knocker.
Where are Wolves? Probably in prison for breaking a restraining order, to be honest. We spoke about this last week, and I said I do think Lopetegui's a man that will come in. I think the reason they committed to not bringing anybody else in, and we were going to stick with what we're doing until January, is because we'd had a little nod from Lopetegui that could be the way that we go, that will be available then. So I think we will go back in for him. I don't think we'll try and embarrass ourselves unless we've got a pretty good idea he's going to come in. But if he does say no, then what are your choices in? I mean, I think you could end up with Steve Davis for the rest of the season.
I mean, just opening that up a little bit, I'd be really...
He's not even laughing. He said that.
I know, he's deadly serious.
He's serious.
But I mean, you look at you look at what we've got option-wise, we've got a very small pool of managers that we can pull from, and none of them seem to either want to come or we're going to go in and show the ambition to pay the money to bring them in. And if Steve Davis was to win a couple of games, I mean, it's not beyond the realms that they might say, all right, we'll leave it to the end of the season, then try and take it again in the summer. I mean, it's not unrealistic to think we could end up in that position, because Sean Dyche is available. Why we haven't gone in and took him, I'll never know, because he's ideal for the position that we're in and the situation that we're in. And I think the fact that they're so determined that they're going to bring in Lopetegui, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he says no, if we either maybe do go cap in hand to Sean Dyche, or we say, all right, we'll just go as we are and see what happens.
Richard Holmes, great answer, Nocky. Richard Holmes, and thank you for your question there as well, Matt. It's an absolute stinker, but it's a brilliant question. Richard Holmes, with the follow-up question to that keeps us in the same sort of theme. We seem to have one managerial target, and is that because that's the best available for this situation and team, or the best Mendes has available? Chris Tyler.
These belters, aren't they?
They're good, aren't they? Yeah.
it seems that way, doesn't it? We don't know, do we? We're not on the inside. Wolves obviously keep people, the cards close to the chest and keep people away from the door. On with Knocker, it seems to be it's him or nobody else, doesn't it? And if we do get turned down again, it's just another embarrassing item to add to the list, isn't it? Even we could find a football manager in the world somewhere, surely, couldn't we? Surely, whether it's Portuguese or, the guys that were mentioned when the job first came available. So, yeah, I think we are waiting for a Mendes client. There's been obviously, again, a lot of stuff on Twitter, hasn't it, the last few days about the Mendes relationship and is it getting unhealthy? That's a conversation for another day.
Or maybe the next question.
Well, yeah, maybe. But is he the best available? We don't know. How many relegation scraps has he been in the Premier League? 0. How many Premier League games has he managed? 0. So who knows? You never know, do you? We need that bounce that Newcastle had. Eddie Howe came in. We all laughed at that, didn't we? Let's be honest. And he's turned that club around, and that's exactly what we need. We're going to be down there. We're going to be in a mess. We need a new manager and a bounce straight away.
Absolutely. Another great question. Thank you, Richard, and great answer, Tyler, as well. Thank you. Mike Allen with another good one coming up. Does anyone think there is something rotten at Wolves and how the club is being run? Are we, in time, going to find out how poorly run we are and look back on this season? What an absolute belter of a question. Do any of you two want that one, or should I take that one, gents? How do you feel?
You can have that, son.
Thanks for that.
But he gets to see the questions first, Knocker. He's probably
exactly. He's prepped, isn't he? He's prepped.
You absolutely take it then, boys. I need to keep you on. You need to earn your match fees and your caps. Great question, by the way, Mike Allen. Thanks so much again. There's some great questions tonight. Now, just leaning back into the previous answer about the manager search, Wolves proved they were looking away from Mendes and there by going for Mickey Beale. That was a little bit embarrassing. We didn't get him, but it does show that potentially Jeff Wolves-Fossen maybe look away and break that Mendes cycle. That doesn't mean they won't have a relationship with him. That just means they're looking out there thinking, well, could this be the next Graham Potter-like character? So I have to credit them a little bit there for trying. Obviously, it's frustrating and a little bit embarrassing that we couldn't lure a championship manager from QPR to Wolves, but we are where we are. Decision-wise, I mean, yeah, I think there's been some stinkers, Mike. I mean, I think the Fabio Silva loan had good intent, but I would look at why would you loan him before you've got another striker in? Why would you sign a striker that's allegedly injured? Obviously, I'm not going to get involved with that. And we spent 15 million quid on him. The decision to carry on with the manager from last season, who at the end of last season, I think everyone was unanimous on the podcast that we didn't think he was up to it. He was staying in the summer, so we inevitably backed him because obviously you want the best of Wolves. And it's these decisions one after another now. And for me, the league position now reflects on the bad decisions that have been made, not just one or two, but consecutive bad decisions, strange signings, strange loan deals. I mean, I don't think Connor Cody would have affected the team. I think he would have been in the team when Collins was out suspended. But who signed off to sell an England international going to a World Cup for $4.5 million? I cannot get my head around that. Who signs off on Adama Traore going out on loan with no obligation, and it considerably weakens your team attack and options off the bench? So yeah, Mike Allen, I think Wolves, something is rotten there, and I think there's some desperately bad decision making. But I think that decision would be making better if there were more football people at the club. I don't know Jeff. I don't know how much of a listener he is, but if more football people were employed at the top of Wolves that he would listen to, I think Wolves would be in a better position. That decision may be taken out of his hands. I don't know. I hope that answer helps. That's just all opinions. No fact there, but I hope that's all right. Actually, without research as well, Tyler and Nocky, but thank you. My community asks, please would you consider all the sad possibility that Raul may announce his retirement, given there appears to be evidence he's suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome? I think I better give this one to Knocker because I dread to think what Tyler would say.
Yeah,
Are you going to be far behind?
Yeah, my suspicion is he's probably going to retire. I don't think we'll see him in the Wolves shirt again. Chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah, well, he seems fine to me on all his training videos. He seems to be in decent nick, and I think he'll play in the World Cup without too many problems. I think there's been a breakdown somewhere. If I'm being honest, I think that there's a reason he doesn't want to be at Wolves. I mean, why would you? We've got great medical staff in this country, not at Wolves because they're absolutely horrendous, but in this country we've got great medical team.
Allegedly for the podcast, please.
It came to you for a nice answer.
Well, he ain't going to get one, son. But he's over in Mexico training and doing his thing over there. Well, why isn't he doing that in England? He's paid by Wolverhampton.
Is that his fault though?
Yes.
It's not his fault. If the club are allowing him to train over there, that's not his fault.
But he's obviously asked to go, hasn't he? He's obviously asked to go there. He wouldn't have just said, "Well, I don't want to go to Mexico." And I very much doubt they would have suggested that he goes. It would have come off from him and his team, because why else would he be there? So yes, he wants to play in the World Cup, but he went for the internationals recently when he had no way of playing. The whole thing just kind of baffles me. If he needs to rehab, he rehabs in this country where we can keep our eye on him, we can track his progress, we can track where he is development-wise, and we can assess whether or not he's ready to come back, because I don't anticipate there's a whole group of the Wolves team around him who are assessing exactly where he is. I would assume that they're going to take advice from their Mexican counterparts, which for me just kind of doesn't make sense. I think he should be here. He's paid by the club, he's employed by the club, he's a Wolves player. We need to know where he is development-wise, because at the minute it's kind of just all gone quiet, and we're just assuming that we all know he's going to play in the World Cup, and this injury will be a thing of the past. And then what happens after that? I think he'll either retire or he'll go back to Mexico, or he'll go to Spain and have a move. And I think the whole thing stinks, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, my take, fair. I mean, we're on here for tough opinions, and yeah.
I totally agree with all that.
That's fine. I don't know. I've got no information on this. My take is, I think Wolves have decided, after what he's been through, which, make no mistake, he's horrendous. He could have died playing for Wolves. I think they've cut him some slack, my opinion only, and they've said, if you can get yourself ready for the World Cup to feature for your club in one last World Cup, prioritise on that. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's my opinion. There's also rumours he may be struggling mentally. Now, if that's the case, I feel really, really bad for him as well, because that can't be nice after what he's been through. He's a young guy with a family. Yes, we've all got families and kids. Equally, I understand. I just want the best for our all, but equally, I don't, like you said, I don't think the whole thing's been communicated out well. But maybe my community... Go on, mate.
Sorry, I just want to jump in on that. I get what you're saying, but we've allowed him to go so we can do this. We did the same with Conor Cody. We allowed Conor Cody to go to Everton for absolutely zero loan fee and £4.5 million. We are in trouble. We are banging a relegation fight. And we're allowing players to do what happens if Daniel Podence says, I fancy 3 weeks in Malaga? Is it all right if I disappear? You know, allow that to happen as well. It's not about Raul Jimenez. How much support did he receive from the Wolves fan base? And yeah, I know that he had an awful incident and he nearly got killed, but the fact is the guy's been back, he's been playing, so now all of a sudden he's got to go over to Mexico. I don't agree with it at all. I think he should be in this country, he should be part of this team, he should be standing up and being counted like all the rest of them players did against Brentford. And for me, I think he's hiding.
I bet you're wishing you came to me now, aren't you, sir?
But it's all right, it's all right as saying he's mentally struggling, he's this and that. People mentally struggle every day, but people can't get out of bed, but they do, and they go to work and they earn a living because that's what they need to do to survive. And for me, I think he's over there and he's hiding and he's staying away from the fight. That's just my opinion.
This is the Wolves. This is episode 45 of the Wolves Report, giving you the tough, big opinions. Mark Knock there. My community. I'm not sure that was the answer he was after. Maybe my sympathy was more on the kinder side, but we're here to give our opinions. But however, great question. One of many great questions tonight. Thank you for that, and thank you for Knocker for your honesty as well. Another question. They're flying out tonight. Mike Allen, are we excusing the bad side of the Mendes effect because initially the partnership with him got us up? We have built a team that will do well in Portugal, but not so well here. Great question. Chris Tyler. They're great tonight, aren't they?
I like it when we just have one question each.
I was going to say, I'm normally in bed by now. This is too much for me. My head's fried. I think, again, there's been talk, has it got to an unhealthy stage? And it seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, Nunes, Guedes, they've got a lot to prove, haven't they, for them to be signings? I mean, we laugh at what we sold Morgan Gibbs White for. We bought Nunes for over £42 million, and so far, I know it's early days. We've seen nothing back, have we? Would we rather have Polini over him? I know Knocker would. Knocker said to me he would for half the price. There's good players out there. There's good deals that are done, and there's good managers that go to other clubs without the influence of Mendes. Do we let him off because it's been the most successful era while we've all been Wolves fans? Yeah, I think we do, to be honest. I think we are a bit soft with it. I think it's only now, the fans are maybe starting to question whether it is getting to an unhealthy stage.
Yeah, I mean, my take on that, we'd have probably never seen where we are and what we've done without the relationship. Unfortunately, when you get on the carousel, you win some, you lose some. And I felt like we've lost more than we've won. However, Matheus Nunes and Gonçalo Queds are not bad footballers. They've just not shown anything at Wolves yet. Is that down to the style of play? Have we not been able to get the best out of them? Let's face it, Matheus Nunes was in a holding 2 last year. He's now playing wide, right of a 3 and sometimes in a 10. That's not his position. Guedes played in a team that was reasonably attacking, just playing off the forward. He's not really done that this year. So it's down to Wolves to find a way to get the best out of the players, like playing a technically gifted holding midfielder that can drive forward with the ball is probably going to struggle when you play him in a number 10. I think we're as guilty of letting the players down, of not been able to show themselves as bad. Yes, you know what? They definitely could have done more, both of them, and I'm not sticking up for what they've done. And I can see Knocker's about to chew mate off again for another answer, so I'm going to mute Knocker, and I'm not going to let him have that answer because my podcast cannot take another beating like that last question. But yeah, a great question, Mike Allen. Thank you very much. No, Knocker, I'm going to have to mute you for that one. We've got time for one more question, or we're going to go on to the Brighton game, boys. What do you say?
I think you can't give Knocker anymore. It's not safe, is it? So.
He's not. It isn't safe, but it has been good and it's been fun. I've got a few questions I've missed out, but this is a good one. We're going to end on a fun one here now, and this is really good. You can all have an answer on this. Steve Bird, who was the original Wolfie the Wolf, he was the man in the wolf outfit. That sort of, should we say, he had the scrap with the pigs. This is brilliant. I mentioned to
as well.
Years ago. I mentioned to Wolves that it's mine. And those damned pigs' 24th anniversary this weekend. Any suggestions of how we should celebrate? Now, that's more like it. That's the kind of question.
Sandwiches.
Say again?
Bacon sandwiches.
Beating Brighton would be a nice way, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hope we don't make a pig's ear of that, babumch. But, yeah, I mean, that incident on the... I remember it on the TV. You see the clips now. I've never met Steve. I don't think I have, but maybe we should get him on to talk us through that incident. That'd be a good guest for the show.
Yeah,
so
he was an outstanding Wolfie as well. I remember he used to trip stewards over. He was always at the away games. He was always tripping people over. He was throwing.
And that's probably why he wasn't at the away games for very long.
Probably. He was a proper character. He was. He was good fun back then.
Steve Bird, the original Wolfie the Wolf, if you are watching and you want to join us on one of the podcasts, just to get your take on that day out and your version of the story of the Three Little Pigs, I think that will be good viewing. So, Steve, drop me a message.
Only if you've still got the outfit, though.
Yeah, you got to come in full disguise. You can't show who you really are. So, yeah, Steve, if you're watching, please come on the show if you'd like to, and I think that'll be really good fun. That's Steve Bird, the original Wolfie the Wolf, bringing a bit of humour to the show after some angrily answered questions, particularly from Mr. Knock, who's been living off.
He wanted to come on, but I think Knock has scared him off. So.
No, that's why we've got no guest this week. Episode 45 of the Wolves Report. Chris Tyler, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. Let's preview the Brighton game now. They've spanked Chelsea 4-1. We've managed to get a 1-1 draw with Brentford. Are we expecting a similar lineup? Is there any need to change it? We've got one definite change we need to make. Unless Matheus Nunes' shoulder injury is bad. I've not heard anything yet. I mean, often I think no news isn't particularly good news in terms of football injuries. The longer you don't hear anything, the more that you worry. So maybe there'll be 2 changes made. But Tyler, how would you line Wolves up for Brighton?
Yeah, I read an article today that, again, you don't believe what you read, but they reckon he's okay. They reckon it's not as bad as they first thought. I said to you on Saturday night, Ron, I know I've had a few beers on Saturday night, but we need to stop worried about Brighton. They beat Chelsea 4-1. They lost 2-0 at Brentford. They drew at home 0-0 to Forest. They hadn't won in 6 games before that game. And the only reason they've turned up is obviously because who was in the dugout on Saturday. We need to stop worried about them. We need to worry about ourselves. You know, we can't go into a Brighton at home game worrying too much about what they're going to do. You are right. They've got technically very good footballers. They're used to the shape. They know their jobs inside out. But we've just got to carry on from that Brighton game. We've got to want it more. We've got to fight for it more. And we've just got to win by any means. It's a bit like the Forest game for me. We just have to get 3 points. I think the side's the same apart from Guedes for Costa. Bueno's done enough, I think, to keep his place. And hopefully Núñez is fixed. I think he is due a performance. You know, there's a good player in there, isn't there, like you say. So I'm going for that. Same again, but Guedes in for Costa.
John Bradbury wants us to talk about the refs again. No, John, you've caused enough trouble tonight. I think you've caused enough problems for this evening, so I think we'll leave that one just there. Nocky, what would you do for the Brighton game?
I think Chris has covered it really well. I don't see us doing a great deal other than Guedes coming in for Costa.
Nocky sitting on the fence again.
I think Guedes comes in. Other than that, I don't see a lot of difference. I don't see how you can drop Semedo or Bueno because they were both excellent. My only concern is Núñez because we don't get slight injuries, do we? We have players out for months on end. So hopefully that's right and he's not injured. But if he
it's
is
another
fit,
one though. I mean, why the hell was he on the pitch?
Well, we do it. We do it every time, don't we? We sent someone back on. We sent someone back on with a cruciate injury, so shoulders
and a broken foot.
And a broken foot.
To not learn, it is incredible. He could barely, you know, he would. Anyway, sorry.
We've got previous, haven't we? So yeah, I'm with Chris. I don't make any real changes other than Guedes.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Bueno's done enough. It was great to have Semedo back in the team. Other than his early clattering, I think it was I think it might have been Wissa. He clattered earlier on. I thought Semedo was pretty good. It was great to see the partnership of Collins and Kilman look solid again. I thought Boubacar Traoré offered a lot of fight in midfield, and I think his fight sort of picked the rest of the team up to do the same sort of thing. So I agree. If Núñez is okay, or as Mateus as he wants to be known as, keep him in the team. And yes, Guedes to come in up top, but as Tyler said earlier on, more fluid. It's our favourite time on the show. It's prediction time. So with the gentle rock music in the background, Tyler, I would like your first scorer and prediction for Brighton, please.
We're trying to run like a bit of a professional show here, mate. What are you doing to us? I'll go with the.
It's so I can tone knocker out if he loses his head again. That's what I can do.
I've just got a sneaky. We're going to win it 2-1.
Get in there.
I'll go for Guedes. Why not?
Oof, I'll have a bit of that. Mark, knock your prediction without smashing your TV up or something.
Yeah, I'm going to make Tyler lose some money again because I've got a cracking bet for him this week. Okay. I'm going to go 2-0 to Wolves, and I'm going to go Hugo Bueno with the opener.
Oh my goodness me. For the first time in a very long time, all the pundits on the Wolves Report podcast are going for a Wolves win. It's my podcast. I've got to go through in regards to I believe it or not. I'm not sure I believe it, but I keep saying it every week. We're going to go 1-0 Wolves. And who else but Ruben Neves. This has been episode 45 of the Wolves Report. It's been fun. It's been entertaining. I hope it's that good against Brighton on Saturday. Thank you for joining us for episode 45. Thank you to Chris Tyler. Thank you to Mark Knock. Up the Wolves.